Welcome back. In this lesson, we learned how to get input from the user in Python. We'll be using the input function to get input from the user. So let's see with an example. I'll create a variable n is equal to input, and then here I can give a message. So I'll say enter a number. So whatever message we're going to give over here, so we'll get that in the output and then we can give an input over there. Now I'll go and run. So you can see we are getting enter a number. So whatever message we have given inside the input, we are getting that message over here. So I'll give 20 as the number and then I'll press enter. So now what will happen is whatever value we are giving over here, that will go and get stored in the variable n. So we are getting an input and then storing that in the variable n. After this, let me print the n and show you. I'll again run. So I'll give the value as 20. So you can see I'm getting the output. So in the n variable, the value 20 is stored. Now let's try to check the type of my variable n. So I'll give the value as 20. So you can see the type of my variable n is class str. That means, so it's a string data type. So that's nothing but my n is a string. But we have given 20, that's nothing but an integer as input, but it is considering it as string. One important thing what you need to notice, by default, the input function will take the input as a string. So always it will be a string. If you want to change the data type into integer, float or any other data type, you need to do type conversion. We can try to convert the data type what we are trying to get as input. Let me say we want to get an integer as input. So what I'll do is, before the input, I will give the keyword int over here. So I'll open and close the brackets. Now when I run, and then I'll give the value as 100. So you can see the data type is integer data type. By default, the input function will consider the input as a string. We need to do the type conversion by giving the keyword int float. Like this, we can just use the keyword and then convert the type of the input. This is how we'll get input from the user. So now let's try to solve a question. So the question is, we need to get an input from the user and then find the square of that number. So first we'll get an input from the user. So I'll say n is equal to int input. I'll say enter a number. So after that, we need to find the square of that number. For example, if the user is going to give 5, then we need to give the output as 25. The square of the number is 25. So I'll say print. I'll say the square of n. That's nothing but I'll use the dot format method. N is so and so. I'll say dot format. So first in the curly brackets, I want to print my n, and in the second curly brackets, I want to print the square of n. So n double asterisk symbol 2. That's nothing but I'm using the exponent operator over here. So if you want, we can even give n multiplied by n. Both are the same. Now I'll run. I'll give the number as 6. So we can see the square of 6 is 36. So we're getting this as the output. So this is how we can try to get input from the user and solve multiple questions. Practice question. So get length and width as input and calculate the area of the rectangle. So the first question, you need to get the length and width as the input and then calculate the area of the rectangle. The second one is, you need to ask the user to enter the radius of the circle as a float and then calculate the area using the formula. So these are the two questions you need to solve and then print the result. Solution. So let's try to solve the first question. So we need to get length and width as input. So I'll say L is equal to, let me consider this as an integer itself. So I'll say int input. I'll ask the user to enter the length. Next, I'll need to get two variables. So I'm going to get the next variable. That's nothing but for width. So I'll say W is equal to int input. Enter the width. So after getting these two things, I need to calculate the area of the rectangle. So I'll give a print statement and then say the area of the rectangle is so and so. Say dot format, and then multiply L multiplied by W. That's nothing but the area of the rectangle formula is length multiplied by width. So I'm just applying the formula over here. Now I'll run. So first I'll enter the length as 25 and then the width as 12. So the area of the rectangle is 300. So this is solution for the first question. So the second question, we need to ask the user to enter the radius of the circle and then find the area of the circle. So let me consider R as the radius. So R is equal to, so float input, I'll say enter the radius. Now I need to calculate the area of the circle. So let me create a variable area is equal to, so we need to use the pi r square formula. So the pi value is given over here. So I'll consider 3.14159 multiplied by r multiplied by r. Okay, so either you can use r exponent 2, r double asterisk symbol 2, that's nothing but r square, or you can give r multiplied by r. Both are the same. Now I'll have a print statement. So the area of the circle is so and so. So dot format, and I'll give the area. Now I'll run. I'll give the radius as 21. So we can see the area of the circle is 1385.44119. So this is the area of the circle. So this is the solution to the second question.